Her ex-billionaire CEO husband left her for an Instagram model for being barren. She showed up with twin daughters in a Tesla to his wedding. The invitation trembled between my fingers as I stood in the back of that rose garden, watching my ex-husband smile at his bride. 300 guests, crystal chandeliers hanging from trees, and my 6-year-old daughter about to blow up his entire wedding. "Excuse me?" Sage's small voice cut through the ceremony like a knife. "I have a question." Every head turned. Dominic's eyes found mine across the crowd, and I watched 7 years of lies crumble in real time. "Are you the man who's going to be our daddy?" she asked, her twin sister River standing beside her, both of them wearing the flower girl dresses he'd sent without knowing they were his daughters. The bride's face went white. "Dom, what is she talking about? Who are these children?" Dominic stared at my girls, at their amber-brown eyes that mirrored his own, at the curve of their faces that could only belong to him. His voice cracked when he finally spoke. "They're mine, aren't they?" I lifted my chin, meeting his gaze across the rows of shocked guests. "Yes, they're yours. Sage and River. They turned 6 last month." "But you couldn't," his bride started, then stopped, realizing what she was about to say. "I couldn't have children," I finished for her, my voice steady despite the trembling in my chest. "That's what the doctors told us. That's what you believed when you left me for someone more fertile." Turns out they were wrong. 3 months after our divorce was finalized, I found out I was pregnant, with twins. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where this really started. 3 hours earlier, when I made the decision that would change everything. My name is Thessaly Monroe, and this is the story of how I showed my ex-husband exactly what he threw away. The morning started like any other Saturday. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my downtown loft, the kind of place I never could have afforded when I was married to Dominic. Back then, I lived in his world, in his mansion, playing the role of the perfect wife to a tech billionaire. Now I had my own software company, my own money, my own life, and it was better than anything he'd ever given me. "Mommy, is this the fancy dress?" River appeared in my bedroom doorway, holding up the lavender dress that had arrived by courier 3 weeks ago. The package had been addressed to my daughters with a note in handwriting I hadn't seen in 7 years. "They deserve to meet their father. Please come." -D, just the letter D. Like he couldn't even commit to signing his full name. Dominic Ashford. The man who'd looked at me 7 years ago and said the words that shattered my world into a million pieces. "Yes, baby, that's the one." I kept my voice light, not wanting her to hear the tension underneath. "But why are we going to a wedding if you don't like the groom?" Sage appeared behind her sister, always the more observant one. At 6 years old, she already had the analytical mind of someone twice her age. She missed nothing. I knelt down to their level, smoothing River's dark curls, the same texture as mine, but with that slight wave that came from Dominic. "Sometimes, sweetheart, we do hard things because they're the right things." "Is he a bad man?" River asked, her eyes wide. I paused, choosing my words carefully. "How do you explain to your daughters that their father didn't know they existed? That he'd thrown away their mother because he thought she was broken? That he'd replaced me with a 23-year-old Instagram influencer before our divorce papers were even dry?" "He's a complicated man," I finally said, "and today, he's going to meet you for the first time." "Will he like us?" Sage asked quietly, and my heart cracked a little. "Baby, he's going to love you. How could he not?" I pulled them both into a hug, breathing in their strawberry shampoo scent. "You two are the best thing that ever happened to me, and soon he's going to realize you're the best thing that never happened to him." River giggled. "That doesn't make sense, Mommy. You'll understand later. Now go get dressed. We leave in an hour." As they scampered off, I stood and faced my reflection in the full-length mirror. The emerald silk dress hugged my curves, the color chosen deliberately. Green for money, green for envy, green for the life I'd built from the ashes of my marriage. My hair fell in loose waves past my shoulders, and I'd kept my makeup simple but striking. I looked successful, confident. Nothing like the broken woman Dominic had left behind. I looked like someone who'd won. My phone buzzed on the dresser. A text from my best friend, Marlo. "Are you sure about this? It's not too late to back out." I typed back quickly. He invited them. He sent dresses. Whatever happens next, he started it. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, "Give him hell. You've earned it." I smiled at that. Marlo had been there through everything. The divorce, the shocking pregnancy discovery, the terrifying premature birth when the twins arrived 2 months early, the endless NICU nights when I didn't know if they'd survive. She'd held my hand through all of it while Dominic was off building his empire and planning his picture-perfect life with Vanessa Chen. Vanessa. I'd looked her up, of course. 29 now, still posting her perfectly curated life on Instagram. 2 million followers, sponsored posts for luxury brands, and apparently fertile enough to meet Dominic's requirements for a wife. I wondered if he'd made her take a fertility test before proposing. Probably. "Mommy, I can't reach the zipper," River's voice called from their room. I pushed away the bitter thoughts and went to help my daughters get ready for the wedding that would change everything. An hour later, we were in my Tesla, gliding silently through the streets toward the Ashford estate. I'd kept my maiden name after the divorce, and I'd given it to the girls too. They were Monroes, not Ashfords. Dominic had given up any right to claim them when he'd walked away. "Wow," River breathed as we approached the iron gates. "Is this a castle?" "Close enough," I murmured. The estate sprawled across 15 acres of manicured grounds, the main house a modern architectural masterpiece of glass and steel. I'd lived here once for 3 years of my life. I'd walked those halls as Dominic's wife, hosted dinner parties for tech moguls and venture capitalists, played the role of the supportive spouse while he built his empire. And then I'd been escorted out by security with nothing but my clothes and my car, because the prenup I'd signed made sure I left with exactly what I'd brought into the marriage: nothing. The irony was, I'd brought everything into the marriage. My ideas, my code, my software designs. But Dominic's lawyers had made sure all of that belonged to him. It had taken me 5 years to build my own company from scratch, to prove that my success had never been because of him. It had been in spite of him. "There are so many cars," Sage observed, pressing her face to the window. "Are all these people here for the wedding?" "Yes, baby. That's a lot of people to watch someone get married. Your father likes an audience." The words came out more bitter than I'd intended. The parking attendant's eyes widened when I stepped out of the Tesla. I saw the recognition flicker across his face. He'd worked here when I was married to Dominic. He'd seen me leave 7 years ago, crying so hard I could barely see to drive. Now I stood before him in a dress that cost more than his monthly salary, my daughters emerging from the car like mirror images of grace and beauty. "Ms. Monroe," he stammered. "I didn't know you'd be attending." "Life is full of surprises, isn't it, Gerald?" I smiled, remembering his name. "How have you been?" Good. I've been good." He couldn't stop staring at the twins. I could see him doing the math, counting back the years, looking at their faces and seeing Dominic's features reflected there. "Come on, girls." I took their hands, one on each side of me, and we walked toward the rose garden where the ceremony would take place. The estate was transformed. White roses everywhere, thousands of them, their scent almost overwhelming. Crystal chandeliers hung from the trees, catching the afternoon sunlight and throwing rainbows across the grass. A string quartet played softly near the entrance. White chairs arranged in perfect rows, already filling with guests in designer clothes and expensive jewelry. This was Dominic's world. A world of excess and performance where everything had to be perfect, where image mattered more than substance. "Ms. Monroe?" A young woman with a clipboard approached, her professional smile faltering when she saw me. We weren't expecting, that is, Mr. Ashford didn't mention." I produced the embossed invitation from my clutch, the heavy cardstock with its gold lettering. "He invited us. My daughters are here to participate in the ceremony." The woman's gaze dropped to Sage and River, and I watched the realization dawn. The resemblance was unmistakable. The same angular jawline, the same intense amber-brown eyes, the same way they tilted their heads when they were curious about something. Of course, she said faintly. Right this way. She led us through the garden, past clusters of guests who turned to stare. I heard the whisper start immediately. Is that Thessaly Monroe? I thought she moved away. Who are those children? They look just like… No, it couldn't be. I kept my head high, my daughter's hands secure in mine. Let them stare. Let them whisper. In a few minutes, they'd have a lot more to talk about. Thessaly? I turned to find Caspian Chen, Vanessa's older brother, staring at me with an expression of pure shock. Caspian had been one of the few people from my old life who'd stayed in touch after the divorce. He'd never approved of his sister's relationship with Dominic, had called it what it was. A trophy wife situation where both parties were using each other. Caspian. I embraced him briefly, feeling his tension. You look well. What are you doing here? He whispered urgently, his eyes darting around to see who was watching. Does Dominic know you're coming? He invited us. I gestured to my daughters. Caspian, meet Sage and River. My daughters. Caspian looked down at the twins, and I watched the color drain from his face. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. Oh my God, Thessaly, does he know? Does Dominic know? No, he doesn't. I kept my voice calm, steady. But he invited them. He sent those dresses. So here we are. This is going to destroy him, Caspian breathed, running a hand through his hair. Good, I said softly. Then, catching myself, I glanced at my daughters who were watching a butterfly dance among the roses. I'm sorry. That's not fair. But he made his choice 7 years ago, Caspian. I'm just here to show him what that choice cost. Vanessa is going to lose her mind. Vanessa is going to be fine. She'll have this on Instagram within an hour playing the victim, and she'll gain another 1 million followers from the drama. I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice. She always lands on her feet. That's not fair. You don't know her? You're right. I don't, and I don't want to. I softened my tone. I'm not here to cause trouble, Caspian. I'm here because Dominic asked. Whatever happens next is on him. The processional music started, a string arrangement of some classical piece I didn't recognize. Guests began moving toward their seats. I should find my seat, Caspian said, still looking shell-shocked. Thessaly, Good luck. I think you're going to need it. I don't need luck. I have the truth. That's better. He shook his head and walked away, leaving me to find seats near the back. I settled the twins between me and the aisle, with Caspian sliding in beside us at the last moment. He seemed unable to stop staring at Sage and River, his expression a mixture of wonder and dread. The ceremony began with the wedding party's entrance. Groomsmen in tailored tuxedos that probably cost $5,000 each. Bridesmaids in blush-pink dresses, their hair and makeup professionally done, each one looking like they'd stepped out of a magazine. And then Dominic. 7 years had been kind to him. He'd always been handsome, but now he carried himself with the confidence of a man who'd conquered his industry. His dark hair was touched with distinguished gray at the temples. His tuxedo was undoubtedly custom, probably Italian, fitting him perfectly. He looked every inch the billionaire groom, smiling at guests as he took his position at the altar. He hadn't seen me yet. I was too far back, hidden among the crowd. I studied him, this man I'd once loved more than anything. This man who'd promised me forever and then taken it back when I couldn't give him the one thing he wanted. I'd spent 7 years trying to hate him, trying to erase the memory of what we'd had before it all fell apart. Looking at him now, I realized I didn't hate him. I didn't feel anything at all. He was a stranger wearing a familiar face. Then came Vanessa, and I had to admit she was stunning. Her wedding dress was a masterpiece of white lace and tulle, probably designer, probably cost more than most people's cars. Her dark hair was swept up in an elegant updo, her makeup flawless. She looked like every bride's dream, walking down the aisle with a smile that could light up the world. But I'd learned to see past the surface, and watching her, I saw the brittleness in that smile, the way her eyes darted to the guests, making sure everyone was watching, making sure this moment was being captured from every angle. This wasn't a wedding, it was a performance, a content opportunity. She reached the altar and Dominic took her hands. They looked perfect together. The tech billionaire and the Instagram influencer, a modern fairy tale. The officiant stepped forward, an older man with silver hair and a kind face. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Dominic Ashford and Vanessa Chen in holy matrimony. River leaned against my side, and I wrapped an arm around her, drawing strength from the solid reality of my children. These girls, my miracles, were worth every moment of pain. Every tear I'd cried, every lonely night, every moment of doubt. They were worth all of it. Marriage is a sacred bond, the officiant continued, built on love, trust, and commitment. It is not to be entered into lightly, but with careful consideration and pure intentions. I almost laughed at that. Pure intentions. Dominic's intentions had been crystal clear 7 years ago. He wanted a legacy. He wanted children to carry on his name, to inherit his empire. And when he thought I couldn't give him that, he discarded me like a broken piece of equipment. Dominic and Vanessa have chosen to build their lives together, the officiant said, to support each other through joy and sorrow, through triumph and challenge. Sage shifted beside me, her intelligent eyes taking in everything. She was so much like Dominic, always analyzing, always thinking 3 steps ahead. River was more like me, led by her heart, brave and impulsive. If anyone has reason why these two should not be wed, the officiant intoned, speak now, or forever, hold your peace. The words hung in the air. I hadn't planned to speak. I'd come only because Dominic had asked, because some part of me believed my daughters deserved to be acknowledged. I'd imagined sitting quietly through the ceremony, then perhaps approaching him afterward, in private, away from the spectacle. But then Sage, my brilliant, observant Sage, stood up. Excuse me. Her small voice rang out clear in the sudden silence. I have a question. 300 heads turned in unison. The sound was like a wave, a collective intake of breath. Dominic's eyes found the source of the interruption, traveled from the small girl in the lavender dress to the woman beside her. I watched as recognition hit him. His face went through a series of expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, shock, disbelief. And then, as his gaze moved to River, still seated beside me, something like fear. Sage, I whispered, trying to pull her down. Baby, sit down. But Sage, stubborn and brave like her mother, continued. My mommy says you invited us. Are you the man who's going to be our daddy? The silence that followed was absolute. I could hear my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. Could feel the weight of hundreds of stares. Could see Dominic's face going white, his eyes locked on Sage, then River, then finally, devastatingly, on me. I stood slowly with as much dignity as I could muster. My legs felt like water, but I forced them to hold me. I'm sorry, we should go. Wait. Dominic's voice cracked across the garden. Thessaly, what? Who? Vanessa's perfectly manicured hand clutched his arm, her knuckles white against the dark fabric of his tuxedo. Dom, what is she talking about? Who are these children? But Dominic wasn't looking at his bride. He was staring at the twins with an expression I'd never seen on his face. Wonder mixed with dawning horror, hope tangled with fear. They're mine, he whispered, the words barely audible. Then louder. Aren't they? Thessaly, are they mine? The question hung in the air like a blade. Every eye in the garden was on me now. I could see phones coming out, people starting to record. This would be all over social media within minutes. The wedding of the year, interrupted by the ex-wife and 2 mysterious children. I lifted my chin, meeting his gaze across the rows of shocked guests. Yes, they're yours. Sage and River. They turned 6 last month. Vanessa made a sound like a wounded animal. But you couldn't. The doctors said. I couldn't have children, I finished for her, my voice steady despite the trembling in my limbs. That's what the doctors told us. That's what you believed, Dominic, when you left me for someone more fertile. I let the word hang there, sharp and cutting. Fertile. Like I was livestock. Like my only value was my ability to breed. Turns out, I continued, they were wrong. 3 months after our divorce was finalized, I found out I was pregnant, with twins. Dominic took a step forward, then another, moving down the aisle toward us as if pulled by an invisible thread. The guests parted for him, creating a path. Vanessa called his name, but he didn't turn back. "Why didn't you tell me?" His voice was raw, stripped of all the polish and confidence he usually wore like armor. The question ignited something in my chest. 7 years of anger, of struggle, of lonely nights and harder days. 7 years of biting my tongue, of being the bigger person, of protecting my daughters from the truth of their father's rejection. "Tell you?" My voice rose despite my efforts to control it. "Tell the man who looked me in the eye and said I was worthless because I couldn't give him children? Tell the man who replaced me before our divorce was even final? Tell the man who made it clear that my only value was as a vessel for his legacy? Thessaly, I never said—" "You said exactly that, Dominic. Maybe not in those words, but that's what you meant. I can't build a legacy with a woman who can't give me children. Vanessa understands what I need. Those were your words, your exact words." Tears streamed down my face now, 7 years of pain finally breaking through the careful control I'd maintained. "You sent them dresses. You invited them to your wedding. Did you think they were someone else's children? Did you think I'd moved on, found someone who actually valued me for more than my reproductive system?" "I didn't know," Dominic said, and he was close now, close enough that I could see the tears in his own eyes. "Thessaly, I swear, I didn't know. The invitation, the dresses, I thought. I heard you had children, and I wanted to meet them. I wanted to apologize. I didn't know they were mine." "Well, now you do." I wiped at my face, angry at myself for crying, for showing weakness. "And it doesn't change anything. We don't need you. We've been fine without you for 6 years, and we'll be fine for the next 60. Dominic had reached us now, close enough to touch. He dropped to his knees in front of the twins, his expensive tuxedo forgotten as he stared at them with naked longing. "Hi," River said softly, always the braver of the two. "You're crying." "I am," Dominic managed, his voice breaking, "because I just realized I've missed 6 years of your lives. And that's the worst thing I've ever done." "Dominic!" Vanessa's voice was shrill from the altar, cutting through the moment. "What are you doing? We're in the middle of our wedding." He didn't turn around. His eyes remained fixed on his daughters he'd never known existed. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. "To all of you. Thessaly, don't." My voice was firm, final. "Don't apologize to me. I don't need your apologies. I needed you 7 years ago, and you weren't there. I needed you when I was pregnant and terrified and alone. I needed you when they were born 2 months early and spent weeks in the NICU, hooked up to machines, fighting for every breath." My voice broke, but I pushed through. "I needed you when Sage stopped breathing in the middle of the night and I had to perform CPR on my own baby while waiting for the ambulance. I needed you when River had her first seizure and the doctors didn't know if she'd have brain damage. I needed you for every sleepless night, every first word, every scraped knee and bad dream and moment of joy and terror." Dominic's face crumpled. "They had seizures? They stopped breathing? Thessaly, why didn't you call you?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Call the man who told me I was broken? Call the man who was already engaged to someone else?" "You made your choice, Dominic. You chose your legacy over me. You chose the idea of children over the reality of partnership. You chose wrong." I gathered my daughters close, one on each side of me. "But I don't need you anymore. We don't need you. We came because you invited them. Because I thought maybe you'd somehow found out and wanted to make amends. But this?" I gestured at the elaborate wedding, the shocked guests, the bride standing abandoned at the altar. "This is just another example of your selfishness." I turned to leave, but Sage's small hand caught my arm. "Mommy, wait. Baby, we need to go." "But he's sad." Sage looked at Dominic with those two wise eyes that saw more than a 6-year-old should. "And you always say everyone deserves a chance to be better." The words stopped me cold. She was right. I did say that. I'd built my entire parenting philosophy around grace, second chances, and the belief that people could change. Could I deny Dominic what I taught my daughters to offer others? "Thessaly, please." Dominic's voice was raw, stripped of all pretense. I know I have no right to ask. I know I destroyed everything we had, but please let me know them. Let me try to be what I should have been from the beginning. You're getting married, I said flatly, gesturing toward the altar where Vanessa stood. To someone else, in about 5 minutes. Dominic finally turned to look at Vanessa, still standing at the altar in her white dress, her face a mask of fury and humiliation. The perfect Instagram moment, ruined. The fairy tale wedding, shattered. Something passed between them, a conversation without words. And then Dominic stood, walking back up the aisle toward his bride. The guests watched in stunned silence. I could hear the clicks of phone cameras, the whispers starting up again. This was going to be everywhere. Tech billionaire's wedding interrupted by secret children. Ex-wife crashes ceremony. The headlines were writing themselves. Dominic reached Vanessa, and they spoke in low tones. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I saw Vanessa's face transform. Anger to disbelief to something that looked almost like relief. After a moment, Vanessa nodded. She reached up and removed her veil, the delicate lace falling away. She handed it to one of her bridesmaids, then walked down the side aisle toward the house, her head high, her bridesmaids scrambling to follow. Dominic turned to face the assembled guests. 300 of the most influential people in tech, finance, and society, all staring at him with varying expressions of shock and fascination. I apologize for the disruption, he said, his voice carrying across the garden. There will be no wedding today. Please, enjoy the reception. The food and drink are all paid for, but I have something more important to attend to. A murmur ran through the crowd. Phones were definitely out now, recording everything. This was going to be the scandal of the year. Dominic walked back to where I stood with our daughters, and this time when he knelt, it was with a humility I'd never seen in him before. The arrogant tech mogul was gone. In his place was just a man, broken by the weight of his choices. I can't undo the past, he said quietly, his eyes moving between Sage and River. I can't take back the things I said or the pain I caused. But if you'll let me, if you'll give me the chance, I want to spend the rest of my life making it up to you, all of you. I looked down at this man who had once been my everything, then my nothing, and now I didn't know what he was. But I looked at my daughters, at their curious faces and open hearts, and I thought about the lessons I wanted to teach them about forgiveness, about growth, about the complexity of human nature. We're not a family, I said finally, each word carefully chosen. Not yet, maybe not ever, but you can know them. Supervised visits, slowly. If, and only if, you prove that you've actually changed. Dominic's face crumpled with relief. Thank you. Thank you. I'll do whatever it takes. Any conditions, any rules, I'll follow them all. And Dominic? I waited until he met my eyes. If you hurt them, if you disappoint them or make them feel like they're not enough, I will make sure you regret it. I'm not the woman you left behind. I'm stronger now. I built a company from nothing. I raised 2 children alone. I survived losing everything and came out better on the other side. And I will protect my daughters from anyone who tries to make them feel less than extraordinary. Even you. Especially you. I understand. Caspian appeared at my elbow, his face pale. I'll drive you home. This is a lot. I nodded gratefully, then turned back to Dominic. You can call me tomorrow. We'll discuss logistics, but right now, we need to leave. Can I? Dominic hesitated, then looked at the twins. Can I hug you? Just once? Sage and River looked at me, waiting for permission. I wanted to say no. I wanted to protect them from potential disappointment, from the possibility that Dominic would let them down the way he'd let me down. But I nodded. Dominic opened his arms, and my daughters stepped into them. He wrapped them in an embrace, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. River patted his back awkwardly. It's okay. Mommy says sorry is just a word. You have to show it with actions. Dominic laughed through his tears. Your mommy's very smart. I'll show you. I promise. We left him there, kneeling in the grass of his ruined wedding, surrounded by shocked guests and the ruins of his perfect day. As we walked toward the parking area, I felt lighter than I had in years. The secret I'd been carrying, the weight of his rejection, the fear of this moment. It was all gone now. Mommy, River tugged on my hand as we reached the Tesla. Did we just ruin a wedding? Despite everything, I laughed. A real, genuine laugh that felt like release. Yes, baby, I think we did. Cool, River said with satisfaction. That was way more fun than I thought it would be. Sage, always more thoughtful, looked back at where Dominic still knelt, now surrounded by concerned guests. Do you think he'll be a good daddy? I followed her daughter's gaze, watching the man who had once broken my heart now broken himself by the weight of his choices. I don't know, sweetheart. But I think maybe he wants to try. And sometimes, wanting to try is where change begins. Caspian drove us home in silence, the Tesla gliding through the streets as the sun began to set. In the back seat, the twins chattered about the wedding, about the flowers and the fancy dresses and the man who might be their daddy. Thank you, Caspian said quietly as we pulled up to my building. For not destroying him completely. You could have? I didn't do it for him, I replied. I did it for them. They deserve a chance to know their father, even if he doesn't deserve to know them. Vanessa is going to be okay, by the way. She called me from the car. She said she's relieved. I raised an eyebrow. Relieved? She never wanted to marry him. Not really. She wanted the lifestyle, the status. But she knew he didn't love her. Not the way he loved you. Caspian paused. She said she could see it in his face when he looked at you. He never looked at her like that. That's not love, I said bitterly. That's regret. Maybe, or maybe it's both. That night, after the twins were asleep in their beds, I stood on my balcony overlooking the city. My phone had been buzzing nonstop with messages, calls, notifications. The video of the wedding interruption was already viral. Hashtags were trending. Think pieces were being written. But I ignored all of it. Instead, I thought about Dominic's face when he saw his daughters for the first time. The wonder, the regret, the desperate hope. I thought about Sage's words. Everyone deserves a chance to be better. And I thought about what came next. Because this wasn't an ending, it was a beginning. A complicated, messy, uncertain beginning. My phone rang, Dominic's name on the screen. I almost didn't answer. But then I remembered my daughters' faces, their curiosity about this man who might be their father. Hello. Thessaly. His voice was rough, like he'd been crying. I know you said to call tomorrow, but I couldn't wait. I need to know everything. When were they born? What are they like? What are their favorite foods, their favorite colors, their favorite books? I need to know everything I missed. I closed my eyes, feeling the familiar ache in my chest. It's going to take more than one phone call, Dominic. Then I'll call every day, for as long as it takes. Please, Thessaly, let me in. Let me try. And despite every instinct telling me to protect myself, to keep my walls up, I found myself saying, okay, but we do this my way, on my terms, for their sake, not yours. Anything. I'll do anything. Then listen, I said, and I'll tell you about the day your daughters were born. I told him everything that night, every detail he'd missed, every moment he should have been there for. And Dominic listened, really listened, in a way he never had during our marriage. They were born on March 15th, I began, my voice steady despite the memories flooding back. 2 months early, I was at work when my water broke. I was in the middle of a pitch meeting with potential investors for my startup. I felt this sudden warmth, looked down, and there was blood. So much blood. Dominic made a sound on the other end of the line, something between a gasp and a sob. I drove myself to the hospital, I continued, because there was no one else. Marlo met me there, but she was across town. I was alone in that emergency room, terrified, being rushed into surgery because they said the babies were in distress. They said I might lose them. They said I might lose all three of us. Thessaly? No. You wanted to know, so I'm telling you. My grip tightened on the phone. They did an emergency C-section. Sage was born first, at 3 pounds 2 ounces. She came out silent. Didn't cry. The doctors worked on her for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. Then River, 3 pounds even. She cried. This tiny, weak little cry that was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. I paused, remembering that moment. The fear, the relief, the overwhelming love. They were so small, Dominic. So fragile. They fit in the palm of my hand. They had tubes everywhere, machines breathing for them, feeding them. The doctors said the next 72 hours were critical, that their lungs weren't fully developed, that there could be brain damage, developmental delays, a dozen other complications. But they're okay now, Dominic said, his voice desperate. They're healthy. They are, but it took months. Months of living in that NICU, of watching monitors, of jumping every time an alarm went off. Sage was there for 8 weeks, River for 10. And I was there every single day, all day, because I couldn't bear the thought of them being alone. I walked back inside, checking on the girls. They were both asleep, Sage with her arm thrown over River, the way they always slept, protecting each other. River had a seizure when she was 4 months old, I said quietly, leaning against their doorframe. Just stopped breathing, turned blue. I performed CPR while waiting for the ambulance. Do you know what that's like, Dominic? Breathing air into your baby's lungs, doing chest compressions on a body so small you're terrified you'll break her ribs? I can't imagine. No, you can't. Because you weren't there. I softened my tone. She was fine. It was a febrile seizure, common in preemies, but I didn't know that at the time. I thought I was losing her. What else? Dominic asked. Tell me everything. So I did. I told him about their first words. Sage said, book at 10 months. River said, mama at 11. I told him about their first steps, taken on the same day, holding each other's hands for balance. I told him about Sage's obsession with science, how she could name every planet by age 3. About River's artistic talent, how she saw the world in colors and shapes. I told him about the hard moments too, the tantrums, the sleepless nights. The time Sage broke her arm falling off the monkey bars and I had to hold her while they said it. The time River got lost in the grocery store and I aged 10 years in the 5 minutes it took to find her. They ask about you sometimes, I admitted. Not often, but sometimes. They see other kids with fathers and they wonder. I've always told them that their daddy loved them but couldn't be with us. I never told them the truth. That you didn't know they existed. Why? Dominic's voice was raw. Why did you protect me? I didn't do it for you. I did it for them. Children shouldn't grow up thinking their father rejected them. Even if it's true. I never would have rejected them, Thessaly. If I'd known. But you did reject them, Dominic. You rejected the possibility of them. You rejected me because you thought I couldn't give them to you. You made it very clear that children were a requirement, not a bonus. So what would have been different if I'd told you I was pregnant? Would you have come back? Would you have left Vanessa? Silence on the other end of the line. That's what I thought, I said. You'd already moved on. You'd already decided I wasn't enough. A pregnancy wouldn't have changed that. It would have just complicated things. You're wrong, Dominic said, fiercely. I would have been there. I would have done the right thing. The right thing, I repeated. Not because you wanted to, because you felt obligated. That's not what I wanted for them. They deserve a father who chooses them, not one who feels trapped by them. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Dominic. You taught me that. We talked for 3 hours that night. Long after I should have hung up, long after my anger should have driven me away. But there was something cathartic about finally telling him everything. About making him understand what his choices had cost. When we finally said goodbye, it was nearly midnight. I was exhausted, emotionally drained. But I also felt lighter. The secret was out. The confrontation was over. Now we just had to figure out what came next. The next morning, my phone was still exploding with notifications. The video had been viewed millions of times. News outlets were calling it everything from the wedding crash of the century to billionaires' secret children revealed. My company's website had crashed from the traffic. My social media followers had tripled overnight. Mommy, we're famous, River announced, showing me her tablet where someone had made a cartoon version of yesterday's events. We're not famous, baby. We're just having a moment. A big moment, Sage corrected, always precise. There are 17 news articles about us. I counted. You shouldn't be reading those. Why not? They're about us. Don't we have a right to know what people are saying? I couldn't argue with that logic. What are they saying? Sage scrolled through her tablet. Most people think you're brave. Some people think you're mean. Some people think Dominic is a victim. Some people think he's a villain. Everyone has an opinion. That's the internet for you, I muttered. Everyone's an expert on other people's lives. My phone rang. Dominic again. Can I see them today? He asked without preamble. Please. I know it's soon, but I can't stop thinking about them. I need to see them again. I looked at my daughters, both watching me with curious eyes. It's up to them. Girls, your father wants to visit today. How do you feel about that? Will he bring presents? River asked hopefully. River, that's not why we spend time with people. I know, but it would be nice. Sage was more thoughtful. Will you be there, Mommy? If you want me to be, then okay, he can come. I relayed the message to Dominic, along with strict instructions. You come to my place, you stay for 2 hours no more. You don't make promises you can't keep. You don't try to buy their affection with expensive gifts. And you don't, under any circumstances, badmouth me or try to explain away the past. Understood? Understood. What time? 2 o'clock. And Dominic? Don't be late. They need to learn they can count on you. I won't be, I promise. He arrived at 1:45, carrying a bag from the local bookstore and looking more nervous than I'd ever seen him. Gone was the confident billionaire. In his place was a man who looked like he hadn't slept, his eyes red-rimmed, his usually perfect hair slightly disheveled. You look terrible, I said, opening the door. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything you told me. Everything I missed. He held up the bag. I brought books. You said Sage likes science and River likes art, so I got some of each. Is that okay? You said no expensive gifts. But books aren't really gifts. They're educational tools, right? Despite myself, I smiled. Books are fine. Come in. My loft was nothing like the mansion he lived in. It was open concept, modern but warm, filled with the twins' artwork and photographs. Their toys were scattered across the living room floor. A half-finished puzzle covered the coffee table. It was lived in, loved in. It was home. Wow, Dominic said, looking around. This is nice, really nice. It's ours, I said simply. We built this life together. Sage and River appeared from their room, suddenly shy now that Dominic was actually here. They hung back, watching him with those analytical eyes. Hi, Dominic said, kneeling down to their level. I brought you something. I hope that's okay. He pulled out the books. For Sage, a beautifully illustrated guide to the solar system and a biography of Marie Curie. For River, a book about famous artists and a sketch pad with professional colored pencils. These are perfect, Sage breathed, already flipping through the astronomy book. Can I really use these? River asked, holding the pencils like they were precious gems. They're yours, Dominic said. I thought maybe you could show me some of your art. Your mom says you're very talented. River's face lit up. I'll get my portfolio. She ran off, returning with a binder full of her drawings. Dominic sat on the floor, and River sat beside him, walking him through each piece. This is our building. This is Mommy at work. This is Sage reading. This is the park where we feed the ducks. These are incredible, Dominic said, and I could hear the genuine awe in his voice. You have a real gift, River. Sage joined them, and soon all three were on the floor, looking at books and drawings. I watched from the kitchen, making coffee I didn't really want, just to have something to do with my hands. This was surreal. Dominic Ashford, tech billionaire, sitting on my floor in jeans and a t-shirt, looking at children's drawings like they were priceless art. Listening to Sage explain the difference between terrestrial and gas giant planets. Laughing at River's jokes. He was trying. I could see that. But trying wasn't enough. Not yet. Mommy, can we show him the roof garden? River asked. If he wants to see it. I'd love to, Dominic said immediately. We took the elevator to the roof, where I'd created a small garden space. Tomatoes and herbs in containers, a few flowers. Nothing fancy, but the girls loved it. We grow our own food, Sage explained proudly. Mommy says it's important to understand where things come from. She's right, Dominic said. I'd forgotten that about your mom. She always wanted to grow things. I wouldn't let her at the estate. Said it would mess up the landscaping. That was stupid, River said bluntly. River, I warned. But it was, Mommy. Gardens are important. You're right, Dominic said. It was stupid. I was stupid about a lot of things. The 2 hours passed quickly. Too quickly. When it was time for Dominic to leave, both girls hugged him goodbye without prompting. Can you come back? Sage asked. If your mom says it's okay? They both looked at me with pleading eyes. We'll see, I said. Let's take it slow. After Dominic left, River climbed into my lap. I like him, Mommy. He's nice. I'm glad, baby. Do you like him? The question caught me off guard. It's complicated. That's what you always say when the answer is yes, but you don't want to admit it. 6 years old and already too perceptive for her own good. Over the next few weeks, Dominic became a regular presence in our lives. He came twice a week at first, then 3 times, then 4. He learned their routines, their preferences, their quirks. He learned that Sage needed quiet time after school to decompress, that River had nightmares about monsters and needed a nightlight, that they both hated broccoli but would eat it if you called it tiny trees. He showed up for Sage's science fair, where she presented a project on renewable energy. He came to River's art show at school, where her painting of our family won first place. He was there for soccer practice, for dance recitals, for the mundane, everyday moments that make up a childhood. And slowly, grudgingly, I started to see the change in him. This wasn't the Dominic I'd married. That man had been driven by ambition, by the need to prove himself, by the desire for a perfect life that looked good from the outside. This Dominic was quieter, more thoughtful. He listened more than he talked. He asked questions instead of giving orders. I sold my majority stake in the company, he told me one evening after the girls were in bed. We'd fallen into a routine of talking after his visits, debriefing about the day. What? Why? Because I can't be the father they deserve and the CEO I was. Something had to give, and for the first time in my life, the choice was easy. He leaned back on my couch, looking more relaxed than I'd ever seen him. I'm keeping a consulting role, enough to stay involved, but I'm not running the day-to-day anymore. I want time. Time I can't get back, but time I can still have. That's a big decision. It's the right decision. Thessaly, I've spent my whole life building an empire. And for what? So I could die rich and alone? So I could have a legacy but no one to share it with? He shook his head. Those girls, our girls, they're my legacy. Not some tech company. Not some fortune. Them? They're not your redemption project, Dominic. I know. They're my daughters. And I'm trying to be worthy of that. 3 months after the wedding that wasn't, Dominic asked if he could take the girls for a weekend. Just the 3 of them. I don't know, I said hesitantly. That's a big step. I know. But Thessaly, I've proven myself, haven't I? I've been here. I've been consistent. I've done everything you asked. He had. I couldn't deny that. But the thought of my daughters being away from me for an entire weekend made my chest tight with anxiety. What would you do with them? I thought we could go to my cabin upstate. It's quiet, peaceful. We could hike, fish, just spend time together. I want them to see a different side of me. Not the billionaire, not the guy who lives in a mansion. Just me. They're 6, Dominic. They can't hike for hours. I know. We'll take it easy, I promise. And I'll call you every night. You can FaceTime with them whenever you want. Please, Thessaly. Trust me. Trust. That was the issue, wasn't it? Could I trust him not to disappoint them? Could I trust him to keep them safe? Could I trust him, period? Let me think about it. I talked to the girls that night. Your father wants to take you on a trip, just the 3 of you. How would you feel about that? Without you? Sage asked, concerned. Without me. But you'd call me every day. And it's only for 2 nights. Where would we go? River wanted to know. To a cabin in the mountains. You'd go hiking and fishing. I've never been fishing, River said, intrigued. Would you be okay, Mommy? Sage asked. Without us? My heart squeezed, always thinking of others. I'd miss you terribly, but I'd be fine. The question is, would you be okay? They looked at each other, having one of their silent twin conversations. Finally, Sage nodded. We'll go, but you have to promise to answer when we call. Always, baby, always. The weekend they left, I felt like I'd lost a limb. The loft was too quiet, too empty. I tried to work, to catch up on things I'd been putting off, but I kept checking my phone, waiting for it to ring. Dominic called that first night, as promised. We made it safely. The girls are great. We hiked to a waterfall this afternoon. River found a frog. Sage identified 17 different types of trees. Can I talk to them? Of course. Their faces appeared on the screen, both of them windblown and happy. Mommy, we saw a deer, River exclaimed. A real one, not in a zoo. And Daddy taught us how to skip stones, Sage added. I got mine to skip 4 times. Daddy. She'd called him Daddy, not your father or Dominic. Daddy? That's wonderful, sweetheart. Are you having fun? So much fun. But we miss you. I miss you too. Be good for your dad, okay? After we hung up, I sat in the silence of my empty home and cried. Not sad tears, not exactly happy tears either. Just tears of release, of letting go, of accepting that my daughters didn't just belong to me anymore. They had a father now. A real father who was trying his best. When they came home Sunday evening, they were full of stories. The fish they'd caught and released, the s'mores they'd made over the campfire, the stars they'd seen, so many more than in the city. Daddy said we can go back next month, River said. Can we, Mommy? We'll see. After the girls were in bed, Dominic lingered at the door. Thank you, he said quietly, for trusting me with them. I know that wasn't easy. It wasn't, but you earned it. Thessaly, can I ask you something? Okay. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? Really forgive me, not just tolerate me for the girls' sake? I considered the question. I don't know. What you did, what you said, it changed me. I'm not the same person I was when we were married. And you're not the same person either. So, maybe forgiveness isn't the right word. Maybe it's more like acceptance. Accepting that we were both different people then, and we're both trying to be better now. I'll take acceptance, Dominic said. It's more than I deserve. After he left, I stood at the window watching the city lights. Marlowe's words from months ago echoed in my mind. Give him hell, you've earned it. But I didn't want to give him hell anymore. I just wanted peace. For me, for the girls, for all of us. 6 months after the interrupted wedding, Dominic invited us to dinner at his place. Not the mansion, he'd sold that. A smaller house, more modest, with a yard where the girls could play. I wanted you to see it, he said as we pulled up. I wanted your opinion. The house was beautiful, modern but warm with big windows and an open floor plan. But what caught my attention was the room he'd created for the girls. 2 beds. One decorated in River's favorite purple, one in Sage's favorite blue. Bookshelves full of books, art supplies, science kits, everything they loved. This is for when they stay over, Dominic explained. I want them to feel like this is their home too, not just a place they visit. It's perfect, I admitted. Dinner was simple. Pasta, salad, garlic bread. Dominic had cooked it himself, and while it wasn't gourmet, it was good. We ate together, the 4 of us, and it felt almost normal, almost like a family. After dinner, while the girls played in the yard, Dominic and I sat on the porch with coffee. I've been thinking, he said, about us. My heart skipped. Dominic, just hear me out. I know I don't deserve a second chance. I know I destroyed what we had. But Thessaly, these past 6 months, getting to know our daughters, getting to know you again, I've realized something. I never stopped loving you. I was just too stupid and proud to admit it. Love isn't enough, I said quietly. We loved each other before, and look what happened. You're right. Love isn't enough. But love plus growth, Love plus change, love plus commitment to being better, maybe that's enough. Maybe that's everything. I'm not ready, I said, the words coming out more sharply than I intended. I'm not ready to trust you with my heart again. The girls, yes. I can trust you with them because you've proven yourself. But me? That's different. I know. And I'm not asking you to be ready now. I'm just asking you to consider the possibility. Someday, when you're ready, if you're ever ready, and if I'm never ready, then I'll accept that. Because having you in my life as a co-parent, as a friend, is better than not having you in my life at all. I looked at him, really looked at him. The gray at his temples, the lines around his eyes, the softness in his expression that hadn't been there before. He'd changed. I could see that. But had he changed enough? Ask me again in 6 months, I said finally. Dominic's face lit up with hope. 6 months. I can work with that. The girls ran up then, interrupting the moment. Mommy, Daddy, come see the fireflies. We followed them into the yard, where dozens of fireflies danced in the twilight. River chased them, laughing. Sage watched them with scientific fascination, trying to understand their bioluminescence. And Dominic and I stood side by side, watching our daughters, not quite touching but not quite separate either. Thank you, he said softly, for giving me this. For giving me them. For giving me a chance to be better. Don't thank me yet, I replied. You've still got a lot to prove. I know, and I will. Every single day. As we drove home that night, River asked, Mommy, do you think you and Daddy will get married again? The question caught me off guard. Why would you ask that? Because you look at each other the way people in movies look at each other before they kiss. River, that's not… She's right, Sage interjected. You do. It's in your body language. You lean toward each other. Your pupils dilate when you talk. Those are signs of attraction. Where did you learn about pupil dilation? Science book. So are you going to marry him again? I sighed. I don't know, girls. It's complicated. You always say that, they said in unison. Because it's always true. But as I tucked them into bed that night, I found myself thinking about Dominic's words. Love plus growth. Love plus change. Love plus commitment to being better. Was it possible? Could we really build something new from the ashes of what we'd destroyed? I didn't know. But for the first time in 7 years, I was willing to consider the possibility. 3 months later, Dominic showed up at my office unannounced. My assistant tried to stop him, but he brushed past her, bursting into my office with wild eyes. What's wrong? I asked, immediately alarmed. Are the girls okay? The girls are fine. They're at school. Thessaly, I need to tell you something. Okay, but you can't just barge into my office. Vanessa is getting married to a professional soccer player. The wedding is next month. I blinked. Okay. Good for her, I guess. Why are you telling me this? Because she invited us. All of us. You, me, the girls. She wants to meet them. She wants to apologize to you. Absolutely not. Thessaly, please. She's been in therapy. She's worked through a lot of stuff. She wants to make amends. I don't care what she wants. She was part of the reason our marriage ended. No, Dominic said firmly. I was the reason our marriage ended. Vanessa was just there. She didn't pursue me, I pursued her. And she spent the last year feeling guilty about it, even though it wasn't really her fault. Why should I care about her guilt? Because you're a good person. Because you believe in second chances. Because you've given me one. And I was far worse to you than she ever was. I hated that he was right. I'll think about it. That's all I ask. I did think about it. For days. And finally, I called Vanessa. Hello? Her voice was tentative, uncertain. It's Thessaly Monroe. Dominic said you wanted to talk. Oh my God. Yes. Thank you for calling. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't. But I'm trying to be a better person, so talk. I'm sorry, she said immediately. For everything. For being with Dominic when he was still married to you. For not asking questions I should have asked. For being so focused on what I wanted that I didn't think about who I was hurting. You were 23, I said, surprising myself with the generosity. You were young and stupid. We've all been there. That's not an excuse. I knew he was married. I knew he just left you. I should have told him to work on himself before starting something new. But I didn't, because I liked the lifestyle. I liked being with someone successful and powerful. I liked the attention. At least you're honest about it. I've had a lot of therapy, she said with a weak laugh. Look, I know you don't owe me anything, but I'd really like to meet your daughters. Dominic talks about them constantly. They sound amazing. And I'd like to apologize in person if you'll let me. Why does this matter to you? Because I'm getting married to someone I actually love. Someone who loves me for me, not for what I represent. And I don't want to start my marriage with this guilt hanging over me. I want to make things right, as much as I can. I respected that. Okay, we'll come to your wedding. But Vanessa, if you hurt my daughters in any way, if you make them feel uncomfortable or unwanted, I will make you regret it. Understood. Thank you, Thessaly. Really. The wedding was small, intimate. Nothing like the spectacle Dominic had planned. Just family and close friends at a beach house, everyone in casual clothes, the ceremony at sunset. Vanessa was radiant, genuinely happy in a way she hadn't been at her almost wedding to Dominic. Her groom, a soccer player named Matteo, looked at her like she hung the moon. Thank you for coming, Vanessa said when she saw us. She knelt down to the girl's level. You must be Sage and River. I've heard so much about you. Are you the lady who was going to marry our daddy? River asked bluntly. I was, but it turns out we weren't right for each other. Sometimes things don't work out and that's okay. It means we both found the people we were supposed to be with. Mommy says everything happens for a reason, Sage said. Your mommy is very wise. Vanessa stood, facing me. Thank you for giving me this chance. I know I don't deserve it. No one deserves anything, I said. We just do our best and hope it's enough. The ceremony was beautiful. Simple vows, genuine emotion, two people who actually wanted to be together. As I watched them exchange rings, I felt Dominic's hand slip into mine. I should have pulled away, but I didn't. This is what it should be, he whispered. Real, not performative. Yes, I agreed. After the ceremony, during the reception, Dominic asked me to dance. The girls were playing with other children on the beach, supervised by Marlowe. I've been counting, Dominic said as we swayed to the music. It's been almost 6 months since you told me to ask you again. Has it? 5 months and 3 weeks, to be exact. So I'm asking. Not about marriage, not yet. But Thessaly, will you go on a date with me? A real date, just the two of us. I looked up at him, at this man who had broken me and was now trying so hard to put me back together. One date, that's all I'm promising. One date is all I'm asking. We went to dinner the following week. Nothing fancy, just a small Italian restaurant that we used to love when we were first married. We talked for hours, about everything and nothing. About the girls, about our work, about the people we'd become. I'm not the same person I was, Dominic said over dessert. When we were married, I was so focused on building something, on proving myself, that I forgot what actually mattered. I forgot that success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. And what do you think matters now? This, moments like this, watching our daughters grow, being present, being real. I spent so many years performing, being the person I thought I should be. I'm tired of performing. I just want to be myself. And who is that? I'm still figuring it out. But I know I'm a father. I know I'm someone who made terrible mistakes and is trying to do better. And I know I'm someone who loves you, who never stopped loving you, even when I was too stupid to realize it. Love isn't enough, Dominic. We've established that. You're right. But it's a start. And I'm willing to do the work. Therapy, couples counseling, whatever it takes. I'm willing to earn you back, however long it takes. I looked at him across the table. This man who had once been my everything. Could we really do this? Could we really try again? One day at a time, I said finally. We take this one day at a time. No promises, no expectations, just see where it goes. I can work with that. We dated for 6 months. Real dating, like we were new to each other. Movies and dinners and long walks. Getting to know each other again, as the people we'd become rather than the people we'd been. The girls were thrilled. They started calling us Mommy and Daddy instead of just addressing us separately. They drew pictures of our family, all four of us together. They asked constantly if we were going to get married again. Maybe, I'd say, someday. And slowly, I started to believe it might actually be possible. 1 year after the interrupted wedding, Dominic took me back to the Ashford estate. It had been sold, but the new owners were friends of his and had agreed to let us visit. "Why are we here?" I asked as we walked through the rose garden where his wedding had been. "Because this is where everything changed. This is where I saw what I'd thrown away. This is where I realized what actually mattered." He turned to face me, taking both my hands. "Thessaly, I know I don't deserve you. I know I destroyed your trust. But this past year, dating you, getting to know you again, falling in love with you all over again, it's been the best year of my life. Dominic, I'm not proposing. Not yet. I know you're not ready. But I want you to know that when you are ready, if you're ever ready, I'll be here. Waiting, hoping, working every day to be the man you deserve." Tears streamed down my face. "You've changed. I can see that. But I'm scared. What if we try again and it doesn't work? What if we hurt each other again? Then we'll deal with it. Together. That's what we didn't do before. We didn't fight for us. We let it fall apart. But I'm not that person anymore, and you're not that person either. We're better now, stronger. And we have two amazing daughters who've taught us what really matters. They have, haven't they? So what do you say? Not to marriage. Not yet. But to the possibility of us? Really us?" I looked at him, at the hope in his eyes, at the vulnerability he was showing me. And I thought about the past year. How he'd shown up, consistently, reliably. How he'd been there for every school event, every doctor's appointment, every ordinary moment. How he'd proven day after day that he'd changed. "Okay," I whispered. "Yes, let's try. Really try." Dominic pulled me into his arms, holding me like I was precious, like I was everything. And for the first time in 7 years, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, we could have a second chance. 6 months later, Dominic proposed. Not at some fancy restaurant or elaborate event. Just at home on a random Tuesday while we were making dinner together and the girls were doing homework at the kitchen table. "Marry me," he said suddenly, stopping mid-stir of the pasta sauce. "What?" "Marry me. Again. For real this time. Not because of obligation or expectation, but because I love you. Because I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Because you're my best friend and my partner and the mother of my children and the love of my life." "Daddy's proposing," River shrieked. "Sage, Daddy's proposing." "I can see that," Sage said calmly, though her eyes were bright with excitement. "Well?" Dominic asked, getting down on one knee right there in the kitchen. "What do you say? Will you marry me? Again?" I looked at my daughters, at their hopeful faces. I looked at Dominic, at the man he'd become. And I looked at myself, at the life I'd built, at the strength I'd found. "Yes," I said, laughing through my tears. "Yes, I'll marry you. Again." The girls erupted in cheers. Dominic stood and kissed me, and it felt like coming home. We got married 3 months later. Small ceremony, just family and close friends, in the rose garden of a boutique hotel. No elaborate productions, no hundreds of guests, just the people who mattered most. Sage and River stood as flower girls again. But this time they walked down the aisle with pride, scattering petals for their mother. I wore a simple cream dress, elegant and understated. I carried wildflowers, colorful and imperfect and beautiful. Dominic waited at the altar, and when our eyes met, I saw everything we'd been through reflected back at me. The pain, the healing, the hard work of rebuilding trust. But I also saw the future. More family dinners, more ordinary moments, more love. The officiant smiled at us. "We've been here before. Dominic and Thessaly first married 10 years ago. But they'll be the first to tell you that this isn't the same marriage. These aren't the same people. I squeezed Dominic's hands, feeling the weight of our history and the lightness of our future balanced perfectly in this moment. This is a marriage built on second chances, the officiant continued, on the understanding that people can change, that love can be broken and mended, that families come together in unexpected ways. Sage and River, would you join your parents? The twins stepped forward, and Dominic and I each took a daughter's hand, forming a circle of four. Do you, Dominic, promise to be a partner to Thessaly and a father to Sage and River, in good times and bad, for richer or poorer, in sickness and health, for as long as you all shall live? I do, Dominic said, his voice strong and sure. I promise to show up, to do the work, to never take any of you for granted. I promise to be the man and father you deserve. I promise to choose you every single day for the rest of my life. And do you, Thessaly, promise to be a partner to Dominic and to continue being the extraordinary mother you are to Sage and River, in good times and bad, for richer or poorer, in sickness and health, for as long as you all shall live? I do, I said, tears streaming down my face. I promise to trust again, to build this life together, to remember that we're stronger together than apart. I promise to give you grace when you stumble, and to let you give me grace when I stumble. I promise to choose love every single day. Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife, again, and this time, may it be forever. Dominic pulled me close, kissing me with a tenderness that spoke of everything we'd overcome. The small gathering erupted in applause, but I barely heard it over the sound of my daughter's laughter as they hugged our legs. We're a real family now, River announced to anyone who would listen. Just like in the movies. Sage, more pragmatic, tugged on Dominic's sleeve. Does this mean we get cake? Dominic laughed, scooping her up. Yes, sweetheart, we definitely get cake. As we walked back down the aisle together, husband, wife, and daughters, I thought about the journey that had brought us here. The pain of betrayal, the shock of that interrupted wedding, the slow rebuilding of trust. It hadn't been easy. There had been setbacks and arguments, moments when I'd wanted to give up, times when the past felt too heavy to overcome. But we'd done it. Not by forgetting what happened, but by acknowledging it, learning from it, and choosing each day to be better than we were before. That night, after the reception, after the twins were finally asleep in their room at the hotel, Dominic and I stood on the balcony watching the city lights. Thank you, he said softly. For what? For showing up to that wedding, for giving me a chance to know our daughters, for letting me prove I could change. He turned to face me, cupping my face in his hands. For loving me again, even when I didn't deserve it. I smiled, covering his hands with mine. You earned it. Every day you earned it. I'll keep earning it, he promised. Every day for the rest of our lives. And as we stood there, wrapped in each other's arms with our daughters sleeping safely inside, I knew he meant it. This wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was something better. It was real, hard-won, and built on a foundation of honesty, growth, and the understanding that love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice you make every single day. We'd both made that choice, and we'd keep making it together for all the days to come. Because sometimes the best love stories aren't about finding the perfect person. They're about two imperfect people who refuse to give up on each other, who do the work, who grow and change and become better versions of themselves. And sometimes, just sometimes, broken things can be mended into something even more beautiful than they were before.